to be home with the one that you want. I stay home with the one that you want. I stay home with the one that I want. Feels so good to be home with the one you want. Yep. Well, everything will be alright, 'cause we're out here in orbit and you're right there.
All right. What's up, everybody? You're watching On Air with Nick Driver, the Nick Driver live stream here on Facebook and YouTube. And guys, I got a great, wonderful panel, a bunch of super talented people here with me tonight. We have got Sawyer with me. Sawyer's right there. We got Sam Blue. We got my man Sam down there. And we got Liberal Dan. We got Liberal Dan with us as well. He has his own show as well. And, Sawyer and Sam, I met on the Winners podcast. So a big shout out to that wonderful show as well. And all right, guys. So let's get into tonight's live stream. If anybody would like to comment or anything to that nature on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to do that, and we'll pull your comment up here and we'll chat about that as well. So here we go, guys. My first question, we're going to start a little bit with Charlie Kirk tonight. I want to start with Sawyer. What do you think Charlie Kirk's biggest contribution has been to society during his lifetime?
Well, we've seen main focus on everything that he centered all of his talking points around, and that would be Christian populism. He targeted younger men and women, particularly in these college campuses and just abroad the country. And every argument that he made, every political take that he had, he based behind Christianity and obedience of God. I think that he was trying to bring people to God, and he was finding a way to do it in politics, in which case he was very network oriented.
Right on. What about you, Sam?
I think his most important contribution to me was having dialogue with those you don't agree with or may not agree with you. And outside of what Sawyer said, I think was a priority or the top for me. But second would be he promoted a lot of dialogue.
Now, Dan, I know Charlie Kirk was more conservative, and we can tell by your name that you're definitely really conservative as well. What's your thoughts, Mr. Dan? What's your thoughts on Charlie Kirk's biggest contribution to our society?
Contribution to society.
Or do you feel like he didn't have any contribution to society?
I personally felt that a lot of what he did was to the detriment of society. I think that he really pushed, and then if you look at a lot of his comments, he pushed a lot of things that weren't. I mean, I was raised Jewish, so I'm not totally well versed on Christianity, but from what I've heard from Christians and other people who understand Christianity more perhaps than I do, it's just like a lot of the things were kind of antithetical to what Christianity should be about. I mean, there was a lot of hatred that he spewed, and you go through that. People say, "Oh, well, listen to the context," and you go look at more of the context, and the context, at least to us, to me, to people on the left, just it makes it worse because there's some terrible things that he said, and it seemed to it almost seemed like either when he was trying to debate the people that he was debating on college campuses, one of two mindsets are there from people from my side is either he was going after people who were young and inexperienced and then therefore not able to debate, or trying to get the people who were younger and trying to convince them to come along to the conservative side, but in doing so, trying to do so in a way that, I think was the worst of conservatism and not like things where you can agree with.
Dan, a lot of people would push back and on that particular statement you made, which is fine. This is a conversation tonight. And they would say, hey, well, you know what? Charlie Kirk also debated these kids' professors. And a lot of them were really just having these talking points that almost seem like they got them from CNN, almost like they got them from, there's like a playbook from MSNBC. Sawyer, what's your thoughts on what Dan said there?
Well, I don't know what I'm supposed to think about someone not really saying anything. What Dan has just done is given a lot of empty platitudes of things that sound bad that Charlie Kirk has done, but Dan didn't really tell us what these things mean. He said that it really caused a detriment to society. Well, I just asked Dan how. What is a detriment? What did he do? How can you combat things that Sam and I have said about Charlie and equivocate it with what you've said as an opposing opinion, or more than opinion, actually base an argument?
Well, I mean, look at some of his direct quotes. I mean, he said, "We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s."
No, that's not what he said. That's not what he said.
It's literally in quotes.
I can. Yeah. Oh, it's really close.
Or
if you're
it's
gonna quote the man,
in
could you
quote.
get
It's
it right?
in quote. I said it's in quotes. I said, but like, if I see says referring to DEI, when I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Not just if I see a pilot that I hope the pilot is qualified because he didn't understand what DEI meant, but he specifically said if I see a black pilot that I'm going to hope he's qualified. Why wouldn't he think that the same things about other pilots of other ethnicities, other backgrounds, etc.?
I think
picks the black ones
that's kind
out.
of the argument, though. He didn't really not say that either, did he? Let me just off of per capita, what percentage of people, what percentage of pilots do you think are white? And we can just keep it within the United States because this is what we know best.
I don't have that number off the top of my head to know that, but apparently,
me neither. But then again, this isn't a contention that I have. We're talking about a contention that you have, so we figured that you'd have some kind of basis on why you think.
Well, it doesn't matter what the actual number is currently or what it was back then when airlines were trying to start their.
Let's say it's 1%.
And if people have been for a while, kind of either steered away from certain occupations or whatever. But the thing is, let's say if it was 1% or 20% or 5%, that doesn't change his words. That in his misconceptions about what DEI means, he literally said, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. Not if I see, but he didn't say the same thing about a white pilot. He didn't say the same thing about an Asian pilot.
Most pilots are white, so if you see a white pilot, is more than likely going to be a qualified pilot. That's the point.
Why?
Your contention is that he said something bad. I don't see a problem with what he actually said.
But he's assuming that just because a company wanted to get some more pilots who happen to be black, trained to be pilots. Yeah.
Is that really their quota to find people who just so happen to not be white, or are they specifically looking for people that are anything but white?
They want to make sure that black people have the same opportunities as everybody else.
Question. Yeah, are they specifically looking for people who are white or are not white? Answer the question.
They're looking for all sorts of pilots, but they want to make sure that of the pilots that are training for the job, that they want to see an increase in black applicants, black trainees.
Okay, so they're looking for black pilots. There you go. You just contradicted yourself.
No, I didn't contradict myself whatsoever. You're completely spinning that. You're completely spinning it again, and you're ignoring the point. Is that why did he not say, if I see a pilot in general, I'm going to wonder if they're qualified because of his feelings on DEI? Why did he have to bring up the race of the pilot?
I want to jump. I want Sam to jump in on this because Dan, I will mention to you that I feel like when that is definitely a point that I've heard a lot of people on the left make, and I don't know if you saw that entire podcast. I feel like they've taken that way out of context. Sam, you want to go in on this?
Yeah, I don't agree with some of the things that Dan said because I followed Charlie Kirk for about roughly 10 years. I actually went out to NC State to actually push back on him before I even knew anything about him. I heard through the internet and on Facebook on things that he was about. So I got my questions together, and basically when I got to NC State campus, he basically promoted, I saw him, if you didn't agree with him, or he would make a statement and basically prove me wrong. He wanted everybody at the front of the line that didn't agree with him, basically to say, hey, let's debate. And when Dan said, like, Charlie Kirk sought out, it seemed that he sought out inexperienced people. Well, this is the thing. We get experience through dialogue. Like what we're doing right now is dialogue. We're getting experience. I haven't met you, Dan, prior to tonight, but I'm learning, and I think the dialogue is what Nick is doing with all of us here is creating what we need in the world. We need dialogue. Just because we don't agree on the same thing politically, that doesn't mean that we disown our family or anything. But the last part I'll mention is the DEI side. The DEI side, where the way I look at it, where Charlie Kirk was asked a question. If you've gone to see him, he asks people will ask him a question. He never says a black person don't belong as a pilot in college, anywhere. He waits for those people to come up and say things like, you feel I don't belong here. And he's like, why do you say that? They're like, because I'm black. And he's like, did you earn it? Did you take your test, everything? They're like, yeah. He's like, well, you should be here. So on the statement about the pilots, I look at that same way when I go into a doctor's office. There are 2 degrees that I see on the wall that if I see those degrees, I turn around or I request another doctor. One is from UCLA and the other one is from any college medical school in Oklahoma. The reason why UCLA is because UCLA had laxed their PAs, their medical degree testing and all their scores so they can get more minorities in to become doctors. Well, what happened with UCLA was when those doctors did their first continuing ed credits, 100% of those doctors failed. So just because they were allowed to go in, they lowered the standard. I don't have a problem with someone being a minority that's a doctor. The problem I have is a standard being dropped specifically to get those numbers higher. Now we'll go to
make 2 points to that, what you said.
Yeah, go ahead. Or were you finished that statement there, Sandy?
I mean, you can finish if you want.
I just want to talk about Oklahoma. The reason why I do not see a doctor from Oklahoma is because Oklahoma is a state that if a doctor gets a malpractice or any lawsuit in any other state, they can literally go to Oklahoma, enroll in that school, and with taking 2 semesters, get their medical credentials back. And if I see a nurse that went to school in Florida, look online to where they had over 15,000 RNs that paid $6,000 to skip their residency and all that to become certified RNs.
Wow.
Well, I agree that's right. That's frightening. That's whatever. But let's talk about 2 things. The quote that he made about the black pilots wasn't made at a campus back and forth. It was made on a podcast. So that was one where he was debating people who were kind of like more on his level and agreeing with him, and they were just having a discussion about that sort of thing. So I'm not going to it was something that he came up with. It wasn't somebody that a student came and asked him about it. Now look, if Charlie Kirk would have come out and said, I've looked at I think it was United or whatever that might have done that. I looked at the United qualifications from before they decided to make this change to after they tried to make this change. And because they lowered the standards in order to try and get more people in there, then I would not want to fly with them specifically because they have lowered standards for everybody to make sure that certain people, to whatever that they feel that they need to lower the test scores for. Then that would be fine. It wouldn't be a racist comment, just like you said with UCLA. UCLA, they lowered standards so that more people would pass, and so. But you're not saying I'm not gonna not have a black doctor from UCLA who or I wouldn't want to see an Asian doctor. Or you're not saying anything about their characteristics. You're just saying where they went to school, and you don't feel like that school produces trustworthy people to
It
be.
would be a black doctor or Hispanic doctor from UCLA that I would not use.
Right. So if you saw a white doctor from UCLA who was able to pass with those lower standards, then you would still see that white doctor.
Well, let me I may have said the wrong statement, but let me rephrase that. They lowered the standard for minorities. Just like if you get an athletic scholarship to NC State, as an athlete, you have to have at least a 2.5 GPA. But to be an athlete at Duke University raised their standard where an athlete has to have at least a 3.2 GPA to be accepted into Duke, no matter what. So Duke actually added to the standard. It wasn't specific to any racial group. UCLA basically said for Black and Hispanics, your NCATs could be 120 points lower. Certain things could be a lot lower than for your counterpart. And my thing is, if it's a white doctor, guess what? I'm going to look at their degree at the date. And if they have graduated from UCLA in the last 4 or 5 years, I'm going to question it. It's my right to. I can get health care for whoever I want. If I get on a plane, I do think about that, because on my computer right now, I have a video for someone who literally made the cheat sheet to get accepted into aviation school.
That's scary.
Okay, so
Dan,
they shouldn't have a cheat sheet to get into school, but still, are you talking about admissions to get in? Or are you talking about the ability to, or talking about the test to be able to pass?
he's talking about lowering the standard of the grade in order for them to pass to get the degree. Is that right?
And also to get accepted, it's both. I'm talking about they lowered the standard of the MCAT. You can't get into medical school unless you score a specific score on your MCAT. They lowered that for Hispanic and Black applicants. And then when they did their testing, where what was acceptable for you to go off the residency would be scoring in a 91 or better, they lowered it for Black and Hispanics to 85. That's what I'm talking about. Not just the entrance to get to the college accepted. They lowered the standard of the testing. That was proven correct because UCLA released a report that 100% of their doctors that took their CEs failed. They didn't say 90%, 100%.
Wow.
So that tells me right there that I'm not going to that doctor.
Right. And I would also mention this too. When it comes to these DEI practices, when it comes to especially the plane situation, I mean, a pilot, I really don't care what color you are, but I don't want any kind of DEI situation that is carrying me 30,000 feet in the air. You know what I'm saying? One of the head of the airlines actually went on an interview and said they are purposely making sure that they hire more Black pilots. That is a priority, but a priority should be getting the best pilot so you don't crash. And I mean, this seems like a no-brainer to me. I want to ask you one thing, Dan. You watch football?
I do.
Okay. If you saw a running back, if the NFL said, you know what, we need more white running backs. Okay. And you didn't really think, hey, I don't really want to think this, but is this white running back actually qualified to get my team as many yards as the Black running back that is really, 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 really amazing at that position? Would you think slightly the NFL is kind of sort of changing the game here in order to make it look like there's more white people at running back position? Would it cross your mind, or would you say, no, I'm perfectly fine with this white running back?
Well, here's I guess the kind of the difference with like that example, simply
Well,
because
could you just answer my question with, would it cross your mind like this could be questionable, or would you go, you know what?
I'd probably ask why the NFL feels like they want more white quarterbacks or white running backs or anybody at a particular position. I would ask why that would be the case.
I think that's what we're talking about here. Why should an airplane company do this? You know, I think that's what we're asking. But go ahead. So I didn't mean to interrupt.
But to me, like the airline companies that are doing this are wanting to see more minority applicants applied. It doesn't, like, I haven't seen any evidence that any airline has reduced the standards to be able to get your pilot's license, to be able to fly on their airplanes, to be able to pilot their airplanes.
Can I give you one?
Sure, go ahead.
The pilot, her name was Rebecca. She flew a helicopter into an airplane in DC, leaving Reagan Airport. Did you hear about that a couple of years ago?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm aware of the pilot that in the helicopter, but that you're now changing the subject because we're not.
No, I'm not. I'm going now to what qualified her to be in that helicopter.
Okay, an airline specifically chose her to fly a military helicopter.
If you go to what's required to graduate from pilot school in the military, the date is 12 to 18 months. The reason why it's 12 to 18 months is because you're supposed to have 1,800 flight hours before you graduate from flight school. And you're not supposed to fly at night until you obtain at least 1,000 flight hours. That's the reason why they have that 12 to 18 month window, because you basically got 6 months to complete your flight hours. Mm-hmm. By the time she got in that plane, she only had a total of 412 flight hours total. She wasn't supposed to be flying at night. She wasn't even supposed to have graduated from flight school, but they fast-tracked her in. I know her. She grew up in Chapel Hill. She played AAU all around here. So she only had 412 flight hours. She wasn't supposed to be flying that night. And then they even stated when you fly at night, you're supposed to have your pilot, co-pilot. You're supposed to have at least 4 to 5 people in that plane for night operations. There was only 3. It was her job as the lead pilot, the head pilot, to make sure that was at standard. But because she didn't have the experience, she was lacking almost 1,200 hours of actual flight experience.
That's a lot.
Given the 2 years prior to that single flight, she had not stepped foot in a helicopter because she was working inside the White House. So it's her first flight out of a 2-year stint of working at the White House as an administration person, as in an administrative role. She's going right into a helicopter. So when I'm
trying to find online, I can't find any evidence that she was specifically fast tracked, and that what was going on was a training mission, and she was still in training. So
that would probably to leave. Listen to what I'm saying. You're not supposed to graduate from flight school unless you have 12 to 1,800 flight hours. If you graduate,
this is saying what I'm saying. She's still a trainee. She was still a trainee.
No, she was out. If you can't leave school, you don't leave Fort Carson until you've graduated from flight school. You stay there until you complete your training. You can move the goalposts all you want, but at the end of the day, anybody that serves in the military, when you fail, you don't pass a certain test, they have this thing called recycle. So you recycle either to the beginning or you recycle to the last phase until you complete that phase. You don't walk across the stage at graduation until you have met that standard. She was a military pilot.
And since when do we just go off of the label that's given? I mean, if we were just going off of labels, then Charlie Kirk was a great Christian populist man that didn't deserve what he got.
I never said that.
You
I
would
never
do,
said that he deserved what he got. I'm just
oh,
don't
I
believe
know,
that he
I
was.
didn't say that you
Okay.
did, but you did have contention with what else I said. But that is beyond a label. See, I mean, you're looking at something that says that she's labeled as a trainee. Sam's whole argument is that that standard to become said trainee, even if she was labeled as a trainee, the standard was lowered specifically for people within her very own demographic. It literally follows up Sam's point. So you saying that she's a trainee, that actually backs up what Sam is saying, because it's objective how much flight hours she had, and that information has been released, and I'm pretty sure Sam's working on that right now.
From what I'm looking at, I'm seeing that initial operational qualification for a pilot, you have to have 350 to 400 flight hours before your first operational training flight. And y'all are saying she had 450, which is more than the 300
So
400 flight hours.
412. And when you say
Sounds like a loaded standard.
operational, there's
An operational training flight, and she was on a training flight.
she was on a recertification flight. That meant she was already a active pilot. She had already graduated from the Army flight school. She was an Army captain. She was in the Army helicopter.
And if she wasn't qualified to, and let's just say she wasn't qualified, which I'm seeing numbers here that are contradicting the numbers that you're saying as to how many flight hours a person must have before, and then we could talk about the labeling of the flights or whatever. Again, this is not a topic I was specifically planning on talking about because, again, I'm not the most knowledgeable about the flight requirements of military folks, and I have to search up all these things on the fly. My point is that you did move the goalpost by moving it from a conversation about commercial airline pilots to a conversation about military pilots and this one specific incident and this one specific person. That person was not flying a commercial airline. So on the topic of whether or not a commercial airline pilot is qualified, I'm asking y'all, is there any evidence showing that airlines have reduced their qualifications for their pilots in order for them to achieve their goal of seeing more black applicants actually pass through? Because there's a difference between trying to get more black applicants into the training schools versus seeing them matriculate out of the training schools. So I want to know if there's any example of an airline that has lowered the standards for pilots to be able to fly a commercial airplane in order to make sure to have that goal of having a more diverse set of pilots. And then even if that was the case, that doesn't change that Charlie Kirk's statement was racist. Because if that was the case, if United Airlines or whoever the airlines was that we're talking about, if they did lower the standards that all pilots would have to follow in order to actually pass their flight school and be able to pass and fly one of their jets, and whatever. If they lowered it for all of them, I would say, I don't want to fly United Airlines because they lowered their standards for people who fly it. And then you'd have to discuss, well, were the standards too high? Were unreasonably high? Are they reasonable standards now? But if they've set unreasonable standards that put the passengers at risk, then if I saw that and I saw, oh, United is letting people pass who are not qualified, I would just say, I'm not going to fly United because they've lowered their standards overall, and I can't trust any of the pilots. But that's not what Kirk said. Kirk literally pointed out black pilots. If I saw a black guy who's going to be my pilot, I'm not going to trust.
Do you know what he was getting to? You're just doing more.
I think you're missing. I think you're missing the point. Go ahead.
It's empty platitude after empty platitude. So you're the one that keeps on trying to bring it back to Kirk. So let's bring it back to Kirk. What did Charlie Kirk say about the Civil Rights Act?
It started with Kirk.
Let's bring it back. What did he say about the Civil Rights Act? I'm trying to level with you here.
Let me find the full on.
What did he say about the Civil Rights Act?
Well, I'm going to Snopes and say that it was a correct attribution. All right, go ahead. Say what you.
No. Well, I'm not gonna answer a question. I'm asking you, sir.
Well, I mean, I gave the quote from.
Yes. I'm asking you to repeat the quote. Is that okay?
Sure. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act in the mid-1960s. That's
yes. We made a huge mistake when we passed the Civil Rights Act. Do you know what he was referring to?
Go ahead, inform me.
So you don't know. You don't know the context of the quote. You just know one sentence in the quote. You don't actually know what they were talking about in that specific conversation. And by the way, it was not a podcast. It was a college campus. So you were wrong.
Well, that wasn't but yeah, you're twisting it now because I'm
not twisting it. I'm just correcting you, man.
No, I'm saying that Charlie Kirk's comment on the black pilot was made on a podcast. I didn't say
the black
where
pilot
the comment. I didn't say that where the comment about the Civil Rights Act was made.
Okay. Do you know his whole contention on the Civil Rights Act, which has ultimately led, well, it's because it's ultimately led to DEI, which has nothing to do with his main contention isn't even race. Dude, it's trans ideology. That's what he was referring to when he brought up the Civil Rights Act. He said the Civil Rights Act and first wave feminism led to what we now know as diversity, equity, and inclusion. His main contention has nothing to do with race. It has to do with trans ideology.
Okay, I mean he's a bigot too. I mean, what's the issue with what?
He's a bigot. Okay. What's bigoted?
Define what do you think DEI means? What do you think DEI means?
No.
I can't address your points unless you give me what your definition.
Yeah, and I'm trying to address yours. You're the one that's bringing up bigoted. What's bigoted about it?
Anybody who, I mean, to me, anybody who says
so self-identification. If you don't affirm self-identification, you're a bigot.
What I'm saying is that if you're worried about trans ideology, you're putting fear into what, you know.
Are you not worried about it enough to argue with me about it right here and right now?
I'm not worried about so-called trans ideology because I don't think trans people have anything nefarious behind them. I don't think there's anything nefarious about what trans people want.
But you're worried enough to apologize for it and defend it. You just have a people who worry about it on the opposing side of you.
I don't believe that there is a so-called trans ideology to defend. That's why I'm asking you what are you.
So there's no such thing as an idea that trans people exist. Is that what you're saying, sir? That idea does not exist.
If that's your definition of what he was saying, the trans ideology
No. Answer. You are so bad faith. Just answer my question. Are you saying
calling the kettle black,
that the idea, son? Don't play that with me, fatty. Look, answer my question. Is there such a thing as the idea that trans people exist? Is that idea real or not? We can go back to name calling, or you can just answer my fucking
trans
question.
People exist, and that is a fact. That is a factual
Okay,
statement.
that's an idea. You just affirmed that it exists.
But that's not an ideology. An
ideology
is a collection of ideas that specifically that you're trying to
it sounds like they all collectively have the same idea and advocate for each other's self-identification. Sounds like a fucking ideology to me. That's literally what an ideology is. A group of people who believe the same shit.
The way that Charlie Kirk uses it also is that it's a negative thing. What is so terrible about acknowledging that trans people exist? Charlie Kirk was scared of the
populace. He was not scared of nobody's scared of boys that want to be girls. That's the most masculine thing on the planet. Nobody's scared of that shit. Dude, he was a Christian populist. You're arguing not against Charlie Kirk. You got to bring the argument against Christianity, not Kirk. Christianity is what he based his beliefs in. That was his epistemology.
There are plenty of Christians who do not speak anti-trans rhetoric. There are plenty of Christians.
Yeah, they're not Christians. Those are just labels.
So
remember the labels?
Scotsman fallacy. That's a
no, it's not a no true Scotsman. I'm not moving the goalpost anytime you give me a qualifier. No true Scotsman fallacy is continuously avoiding qualifiers after you try to find the center of my epistemology. You're not going to get me on logical fallacy, sir.
The no true Scotsman fallacy is basically this person can't be X because they say X, they say Y or Z. That's what.
No, I'll tell you exactly what a no true Scotsman fallacy is because I've written a thesis on logical fallacies. A no true Scotsman fallacy is an attempt to refute evidence that counters their presupposition or a thing that is understood or implied without being directly stated and is assumed beforehand at the beginning of a line of argument or course of action, or its generalization by claiming the example doesn't represent the group at defense or in question. I'm telling you, I'm giving you a single qualifier. I'm not moving the goalpost. I'm giving you one single qualifier, and I'm telling you your criticism does not meet the qualifier. Christians advocate against trans ideology. If you do that, you are a Christian. If you advocate for the ideology, you're not a Christian. That's not a movement of a goalpost. That's a single consistent standard. That's the
First of
opposite
all,
of no true Scotsman.
an ideology is according to the dictionary, is a system of ideas and ideals, specifically one which form the basis of either economic or political theory. So one idea cannot create an ideology.
How is that not trans ideology, sir? Now you have to differentiate between
Well,
trans
no, but
ideology
you're the
and the
one who's
definition you just read
you
off.
and Charlie Kirk are the ones that are saying that there's a so-called trans ideology. But
Yes,
yet what you said, what you said is you only gave one example of an idea, and the idea
Under
is
your own
trans
standard.
people. Look, I let
is.
you talk. You keep interrupting me. I let you talk for a while. I let you go on
Go
and talk for
ahead,
a while,
sir.
and you're
Give me
going to
more
be
empty
disingenuous and
platitudes.
keep interrupting me. No, an
Go ahead,
ideology requires is a collection of beliefs and not just a single idea or ideal that you want to hold, that you want to believe in or whatever. But the idea that trans people exist, they exist. They're out there. Somebody says that they're trans. So they exist. There are people who firmly believe that whatever was put on their birth certificate does not match who they are as a person. That is basically what a trans person is. Whether that person is non-binary, whether that person is gender fluid or gender queer, or whether that person is a trans man or a trans woman. That is all that the definition of trans person is, and that's not an ideology. That's just a statement of fact that though there are people.
Call me out for a no true Scotsman fallacy, but you're teetering on the edge of what an ideology is, and then following up that with telling us exactly what trans ideology is. You're giving us the definition of ideology, and then you're qualifying it with trans ideology. You don't even know that you're doing it.
You're saying that you and Kirk and other people are saying that there's a so-called trans ideology, this idea that trans people are trying to push this thing onto society, and that it's going to harm us all because God forbid we call somebody who was assigned male at birth
and let's get to the bottom of it. And let's get to the bottom of it. And you're saying that trans ideology, what I would define as it, you would not define as it because it doesn't fit this dictionary definition.
I don't believe that there is a trans ideology altogether. It
describes the centralization of multiple ideas into a single entity known as trans. It's a whole bunch of people. We're not talking about a single idea. We're talking about multiple people who are in the trans whatever the hell it is, whatever that train is called. I don't go to that train station, so I don't know what that train's called.
All right, guys.
Collection of people.
Let's switch over. Let's segue into the next topic, man. Great. Great takes on everybody's part, man. Great takes. So the next one I want to touch on here is the rise of radical left violence in America. And actually, this is something that is happening worldwide. I want to start with Sam. Why do you think political violence from the far left has increased so much in recent years?
I believe it's just from the leadership of the left or from Democrats and the verbiage that they use. When you call people dictator, you call them Hitler, you call them racist, you call them, when you start to use all these terms because someone just doesn't agree with you, or you're upset just because the person you voted for didn't win. When you start to say somebody is a dictator, then you get some people out there on the street that will basically be like, okay, well, if everybody I support is saying that this person is that bad, is this horrible, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out, and I can be a hero to the people that I support. And that's literally where you have with a lot. I think a lot also has to do with just the mental health. You have so many of the young generation now where they self-diagnose themselves, and we're in a society right now to where we're over-medicated, where we self-diagnose. You have kids now walking around high schools and colleges saying, I have this type of syndrome and it's non-symptomatic, and you're offending me because you're asking me, how do I know that I have this issue? So I just think that when you begin to repeat something over and over and over and over again, it's almost like that song on the radio you can't stand. But when the radio continues to play it because that studio has bought up so much airtime, next thing you know, you can't get it out your head. It's like, man, now I'm singing the song. So I think with the ideology, you're creating a whole lot of people that are out here basically trying to be the next hero.
All right, so let me just some of the points that you made. I want to put a pin on the Hitler thing in a second because that's going to derail us completely because I have a whole bunch I could say about that. But let's talk about the dictator comment. Did or did not on Sean Hannity's show did Donald Trump say, "I'll be a dictator on day one"?
He did say that,
right? So,
and you know the context why he said that?
Yeah, gotta look at context.
He said he was going to be that, or people was going to think that because he was going to sign executive orders to close the border. He was going to do a lot of executive orders to make things get fast tracked.
That's not what he said on Sean Hannity. Sean Hannity it was two specific things. It was drill baby drill and I forget what the other one was, but those two specific things that he said that he was going to he wanted to be. Not that people would interpret him as being dictator on day one, that he wanted to be dictator on day one so that he could accomplish those goals. Not that people would think of him as that, but he wanted to be that on day one. And then of course you go into his presidency, you have examples on official White House social media pages of him, long live the king or King Trump or all this other stuff where
he self-identifies himself as king. You should affirm that.
Well, and one thing I would mention too is it just seems like a lot of times to me it feels like this during Obama's administration, for example.
Mm-hmm.
I tell you what kind of king he was. He was the drone strike king, and he actually killed a 16-year-old American citizen.
He did.
Donald Trump is somehow a dictator or a king. I want to mention this to you, Dan. If Donald Trump was the king, you couldn't have a no kings rally. The whole thing is ridiculous to me.
We don't want
because they would well, you don't have one. Dan, you don't have a king.
He
wants to be one.
What king in history has ever been elected? Go ahead.
Well, he's not a king, but he's saying he wants to be one. So we're saying we don't want you to be one.
You're not going to affirm his identity? Why not? Would you say you're not going to affirm it because it's not an idea?
How you're mocking trans folk by trying to equate.
I'm mocking transphobes. Isn't that what you do? You mock transphobes. I'm the transphobe.
No, you
I'm
mock
the transphobe.
I don't think calling each other names. I don't think calling each other names really fixes anything. But I will mention this.
I will mention
you guys are super entertaining. I'm like,
but can we get back to the topic of the so-called increase of left-wing domestic terrorists?
Dan. Absolutely, Dan. You go ahead, buddy.
All right. So, how many examples of left-wing domestic terrorism has there been, according to the report that said that there was left-wing domestic terrorism? I'm trying to find the name of it. From the Armed Conflict Location and Event Data Project and Anti-Defamation League or whatever. How many examples of left-wing domestic terrorism do you think happened for that report for the first 6 months of this year? I can't.
Well, I didn't want to interrupt. Sorry, you want to go with it?
What do you mean by domestic terrorism?
I'm going by an article that I found to discuss this. I mean,
would you say that left wing domestic terrorism would be a left wing person shot and killed Charlie Kirk in the daylight, and then they auto-populated it to everybody on X?
Has it been shown that he actually was a left wing person?
Yeah,
come on, bro. Come on, Dan. Come on, Dan.
Said it.
Dan, come on, bro.
Right, the article said it. So everything on the internet must be true.
Damn,
Right?
what you doing?
His entire
But
family.
here's the
said it.
point.
God.
Look.
His entire family.
I'll
said
say
it,
right
man.
now. I'll say right now that left-wing domestic terrorism, according to this article, between the first 6 months of 2024 and the first 6 months of 2025, increased by 400%. 400% more left-wing domestic terrorist attacks in 2025 than 2024. Why is that? Because there was 1 in the first 6 months of 2024, and there was 5 in the first 6 months of 2025. So the huge swell of all these left-wing domestic terrorists, sure are frightful. Meanwhile, in like the 10 years prior or more than 10 years prior, there was an average of 12 every year, or at 12 a month, I want to say, by right-wing domestic terrorists.
You really need to cite your source if you're going to quote something like 12 every month or every year, because I'm telling you right now, that's false. That's the reason why I asked you earlier, what do you classify it as domestic terrorism? Because
if that's
the case, if you're talking about like mass shootings, Chicago just had 31 last weekend. 2 weeks prior to that, they had 54. They've had over 800 shootings already, and those are in the hood. So when I ask you, what do you mean by domestic terrorism? Are you talking about the shootings? Are you talking about planning? Are you talking what exactly are you speaking about? So we can make sure that when we give statistics, we're talking the right statistics.
All right. Well, I think I would focus.
FBI?
I would focus that more towards Nick. So what he meant when what got us together to form, this weird Voltron form or whatever, to be able to say, hey, we want to talk about the rise in left-wing domestic terrorism. So Nick, what do you believe qualifies as a left-wing or as a terrorist attack or as a domestic terrorist attack, whether or not it's left-wing or right-wing? What do you think that qualifies as one, since you're the one who wanted to
publicly murdering a person that's having a friendly debate on a college campus.
Right,
I would refer that as a form of left-wing terrorism. I don't know. Sawyer, am I wrong? Sam, am I wrong here?
Me personally, I don't.
You gave a finite definition.
I don't consider that terrorism. I think of it as an assassination.
Okay.
When we talk about the church, that the trans man had went in there and shot up the church. When we talk about the young man that shot in Butner, Pennsylvania, if you notice, they only show photos of him in the 8th grade. They didn't want to show the photos with his long hair and makeup and earrings on.
Right.
So it's also, we have to look at how come every time they show a mass shooter, they show them from when they was in grade school or just entering high school, before they actually got to college. And the gentleman that or the young man that is charged with doing what he did to Charlie Kirk, his entire family, when they interviewed him, even people that stayed in his area, they even confirmed that at every dinner, he was always that one that was always against the entire family when it came to their politics. So I'm not going to believe the news more than I would believe his own family, who remember the arguments that they had at picnics and family reunions. And they literally said every time they got to get together, as soon as he went off to college, he just really went out and began to get angry. And then I don't know a whole lot of right-wing minded people that actually in a relationship with somebody that's trans.
Okay.
There are people who are. I mean,
you can say that, but give me a specific name. I told you, I personally don't know one person that will believe, because most of the people that I know, they believe in Christian values. They follow those principles. Just like I don't believe two people that are same sex can be married. I believe that they should be able to have a domestic partnership, but when we get the word marriage, when it comes, we want to draw out the Bible and say it's between a man and a woman. That's the principles that I'm talking about. Again,
Well, back in the day,
I have plenty of friends that are gay and married, and I respect them. We go, we chill. We don't even talk about politics. But in my head, I don't believe that two people of the same sex can be married. I believe in domestic partnerships. You love who you love.
Well, here's the thing. When I ran for Congress back in 2004, one of the things I said back then was that I would have no problem if we wanted to say something like leave the definition of marriage to religious institutions and not have marriage be a government term and just have government sign domestic partnerships for everybody, regardless of what gender or each member of the relationship was for that partnership.
I can agree with that.
But the problem with that is
yeah, Dan. Yeah. Sorry, go ahead, buddy.
But yeah, it would be very hard to unring that bell, and I think you'd have a lot of people pushing back that say, "Why is the government going to stop calling what my thing is a marriage? Are they reducing the whatever marriage?" You'd have a lot of pushback on that too. But if we could go back to the beginning of government endorsing marriage and say, "Okay, well let's just call these domestic partnerships," then fine. But the problem is that even then, what a church, I always use the person who founded Popeyes, Al Copeland. This local New Orleans person here, created Copeland's restaurant, other restaurants that he created, whatever. He was a Catholic. He got married in the Catholic Church for his first marriage. They split up. Well, the Catholic Church doesn't believe in divorce. So then he married somebody else for the second marriage. Then he divorced that person, married somebody else for the third marriage. Sometime in that time period, his first wife passed away. So then he married his fourth wife in the church again, because now he could legally get married under the Catholic Church doctrine, get married within the church. So according to the state of Louisiana, Al Copeland was married 4 times. According to the Catholic Church, Al Copeland was married twice. So we already have a situation where civil marriage contracts are something that are actually wholly different. They just happen to use the same word as, religious institutions do. So, and look, if you wanted to have a situation where, you can't force, like, for example, a church, this is opening a can of worms, you can't force a church to marry people outside of their religious arguments. Like, me and my wife, I'm Jewish. I was raised Jewish, no longer practicing. I practiced enough as a kid. My wife is a lapsed Catholic. We have 2 kids. They're cashews. We couldn't go into a synagogue or to the Catholic Church and demand that they marry us. Why? Because the Catholic Church wants 2 people who are Catholic folks to be married and be married under the eyes of, God and Jesus and, following the church doctrine. And the Jewish synagogue would be like, we want 2 people to marry who are Jewish and who follow the rules of Jewish law and the Torah and everything like that. So we can't force anybody to marry, that in a religious institution, we can't force them to recognize it, but that doesn't mean that the legal aspects of marriage, which is also conferred via the civil marriage document that you get when you get married with the state, and that marriage document confers a certain set of automatic legal rights. And when you do something like say, for heterosexual couples, we're going to call it this, and for homosexual couples, we're going to call it this, you then create a system where it's separate but equal. We already proved in this country that doesn't work. And B, you make it easier then to whittle away the rights of one while keeping the rights of the other. And we've tried, there are certain circumstances before Obergefell v. Hodges, I think back in early 2000s, you had Lisa Pond. She was in a hospital. Her and her partner at the time, both women, were traveling on vacation. Lisa Pond got sick, went to a hospital in Florida, despite the fact that her partner had all of the legal documents that saying she had medical power of attorney, legal power of attorney, all the things that you might need to be able to come and take care of those issues. The nurses at that hospital said, we're not going to let you in because we don't believe that you are a couple, a married couple or whatever, because we don't believe in same-sex partnerships here, wherever they were in Florida. So you literally have somebody who was denied just the humanity of being able to spend the final hours with the person who they love and spend the rest of the time with, just because the person was trying to use their religion as an excuse to perpetuate that bigotry. But that's why we can't have separate definitions for one and the other unless everybody has this, unless you're going to separate the religious as marriage, civil union or whatever is for the government acknowledged things. Unless you do it that way, you can't have the government saying, well, these classes of people are married, these class of people are domestic partnerships or civil unions or whatever, because then you're going to always have people that say, well, you're not married, so therefore no. Sorry, I filibustered for a bit.
What I would ask Dan of that, of the example that you used was, when was that? Like, how many years ago was it?
Hey, Dan, we can't hear you, buddy. Hey, Dan,
You're
your
muted.
mic.
All right, it's like sometime between 2000 and 2004, probably closer to 2004. I don't remember the exact date. I could look it up real quick, but
So it was, if it was that early, it was prior to marriage being legalized between same-sex couples, because I think that happened in 2009.
That happened with Obama.
It happened under Obama.
Yeah.
I think near his second term.
right. But what I'm saying is that was before we recognized federally gay marriage and required that everybody be able to have, get married regardless of the gender of who they were with.
So
but the point is
what I'm saying is,
it shows
the point
why
that
it's
you made
needed.
is not an issue anymore, because there's now laws in place to
Right.
keep that from happening.
Right.
So what you just discussed has been fixed.
yeah,
or
it's
it's
already
been-
been corrected.
But you said yourself you want to change it. You don't believe in gay
No,
marriage. You said,
No, I
said
didn't say that.
No,
He
I
didn't say that. Sorry, go ahead,
I
buddy.
said,
well, that's how I
personally-
interpreted what you said by saying that you don't believe that gay people should be able to get married.
No, I told you my beliefs. My
Mhm.
beliefs and my principles is that marriage is between a man and a woman. That's what I
Okay.
said. I didn't say I have friends that are same-sex married under law. I don't have anything against them. I have just as much love for them as I do my other family. I'm just saying my principles, my values of how our household is raised, that's what I'm speaking on. I wasn't talking about what, that's why I specifically said my personal views. I didn't say in law, in Congress and all that, because I got a book right here that covers all of that. So when the statement you just made basically was irrelevant because it's been corrected, as Nick said. So I would like to just speak about things on here that what are some issues now that haven't been corrected 20, 30, situations from 20, 30 years ago. Let's talk about the issues we're facing now in 2025, 2024, we'll be facing next year.
Well, I will point out that while it has been rectified, we currently have a case that could go before the Supreme Court for what's her face? Why am I forgetting her name? The one that was the clerk who didn't want to marry the gay people before Obergefell v. Hodges was passed, and basically the attempt of her lawsuit in trying to avoid to pay the civil penalties for refusing to, give them the marriage contract as the clerk in the area where she was at. She's trying to get out of that by trying to say that Obergefell v. Hodges was poorly argued. You have the Supreme Court of Texas, so I think today or this week at least, passed something that says that judges cannot be required to marry same-sex couples if it's against their religious beliefs. What I see that as being is another attempt if what's her face's suit fails, that they want to be able to get that before the Supreme Court to be able to try and overturn Obergefell v. Hodges. And you have in Dobbs v. Jackson, the ruling that overturned Roe v. Wade and Casey v. Planned Parenthood, you have Justice Thomas's concurrence that also didn't just deal with abortion rights, but also dealt with the other rulings that he felt were similarly poorly ruled on, which included things like Loving versus Virginia, Obergefell v. Hodges, Griswold versus Connecticut. But for the purpose of this conversation, the Obergefell v. Hodges one is the most important one. Lawrence v. Texas is another one he thought was bad as well. But the and his concurring opinion has already been used in legal cases to as a precedent, even though only one justice said it. And my concern, and the concern of a lot of people who support marriage rights and marriage equality, is that they're going to use this opportunity now that you have a 6-3 court, or maybe a 5-4 court in some cases, because Roberts, more than the rest of them, actually supports stare decisis more than the others who are conservative leaning on the court, that it could come back up before the court, and then you could have a whole bunch of people who no longer will be married under the law, who were already married under the law, because they go ahead and say, now we're going to send it back to the states again, and then all of their legal protections are now up in the air depending on what state we live in, and we'll have a patchwork of laws dealing with marriage in this country, which is, in my opinion, not a good idea.
Great.
Okay, look, I'm gonna be honest with you real quick. Maybe about 3 minutes in, you lost me. When you pulled up all the different cases, that really doesn't matter to people that are listening in and stuff like that, because unless you actually post the links to all of the cases that you're quoting to show where people can research for themselves, I can ring off a bunch of names. I'm more of a fact-based, cite your source. That's hold on. That's one reason why I have my Constitution right here. I have all these books within arm's reach to be able to do. Now, what I'll say as far as a judge, if we're going to have religion, if people that are extreme Islamists are able to use our rules and our Constitution to infiltrate and do that Trojan horse as they're doing in Dearborn, Michigan, and Minneapolis, that judge doesn't have to, if it's his religion, just like the cake maker who won their case in front of the Supreme Court because they was being forced and sued because they refused to make a cake for a same-sex couple. The Supreme Court ruled in the baker's favor. So the thing is, if we're going to respect religion, freedom of religion, let's respect it. So any case that goes before the Supreme Court, honestly, the Supreme Court are going to turn away a lot because the attorneys at least have the law with the baker that they ruled in favor of to use, because that's a clear sign of freedom of religion. That's all I'm saying. But
the ruling, like Obersville v. Hodges, which is the ruling that legalized same-sex marriage across the country, is you also have the idea that people cannot enforce their religious beliefs on you either, which is part of that wall of separation that Thomas Jefferson talked about in his letter to the Danbury Baptists. Now, I mean, I listed a whole bunch of cases, and everybody. I mean, I've talked about this on my show. I have plenty of videos on my channel that talk about a lot of these cases, especially if you want to go into some of the more. I've gone deep dives into like Dobbs v. Jackson, for example. But if you want to see like the ruling of Dobbs v. Jackson that overturned Roe v. Wade, look up Dobbs v. Jackson. If you want to look up the ruling that basically made marriage equality legal across the land, look up Obersville v. Hodges. If you want to see and the other cases that I'm talking about that Clarence Thomas brought up, Griswold v. Connecticut, which made it so that married people could have access to birth control pills, that a state could not deny a married couple the access to that. And there was another one, I forget the name of that one, that also ruled that applies to everybody else. Lawrence v. Texas.
Hold on, Dan, real quick. There's states that you can get arrested for having intercourse doggy style, or like there's literally states that have certain provisions.
What a terrible law.
That's in that particular state. But what I'll ask you,
but those are unenforceable because of Lawrence v. Texas, which is the law
you mentioned things pertaining to abortion rights. So are you upset at Obama for the promise that he made on day one to sign the Freedom of Choice Act that would have codified Roe versus Wade, that he promised all those people he was going to do on day one? Because remember, when he got elected, he had a supermajority in Congress. Well, all you need is a simple. And then in the Senate, he has 61 votes. He had 59 Democrats, and he had support of the 2 independents. he was able to pass whatever he wanted. And when those people, those pro-choicers, confronted him, they continue to hunt him down. You look online, and he said that's not his priority anymore.
Let's
So-
talk about those numbers, shall we? Because
so he
I'm
could
fully
have-
ready to talk about that.
So he could have actually, Obama could have actually nipped it in the bud back in 2008, 2009 when he came into office. So are
He
you
would've-
upset with him for not doing that, or is he still the greatest president?
Let's talk about the points there, because there's more than just a yes or no question. Yes, he did say that if Congress put that before him, that he would have signed it. It would have required Congress put it before him.
Which he
I
had.
have no evidence they didn't put it before him, and he didn't have the numbers in Congress. I'll go into that in a second. Had Congress passed that bill and Obama signed it into law, the ruling in Dobbs v. Jackson would have absolutely overturned that law as well, because they would have been able to stop the 5-4 majority that eliminated Roe v. Wade. That 5-4 ruling would have also overturned whatever that act that would have been, because it was using the same ideas, because it's just codifying Roe. And if Roe was poorly founded, and according to the conservative justices, then they would have used the same logic to overturn that. So even had he done that, Dobbs v. Jackson would have still taken place, and Dobbs v. Jackson would have absolutely overturned that codified law, just as it overturned Roe v. Wade and Casey versus Planned Parenthood. Now,
You're
numbers-
saying
let me-
that, but you don't know that because he didn't. So you can't say that something would have happened.
I can make an assumption. If they were codifying Roe,
Okay,
and
now
Roe is
you're
and Roe,
saying
and Roe is if Roe is
That's
unconstitutional, if
You're
Roe is
saying an
unconstitutional,
assumption,
right. But I think
which is your opinion.
it's a logical assumption based off of the wording of Dobbs v. Jackson, which said that the federal government didn't have the authority to make anything nationwide about abortion rights, and that it belonged to the states. Alito's ruling was terrible. We can go into that later if you want, but let's talk about the makeup of the House and the Senate during between 2009 and 2011.
Hey Dan, I'm gonna give you 60 more seconds on this topic, and then we're gonna roll to another topic. We're starting to lose people.
Sure. All right, fine. 60 seconds. I'll try to do it quickly. We got the majority of the House was Democratic, but the majority of the House representatives at that time were also pro-life. There were pro-life Democrats, blue dog Democrats that were in the House that would not have supported that. In the Senate, you had 58. It took forever for Al Franken to get seated, and then you didn't get 60 until Arlen Specter switched parties from Democrat to Republican. Until then, you only had 59 to break the filibuster, and he used the political capital. There was probably about only a few months worth of time where he actually had a full 60, and they used that time to be able to do the Matthew Shepard Hate Crimes Act, and they also did, and the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act, and the Affordable Care Act. So
all right, Dan, we're gonna move on, man. We're starting to lose a lot of people here, man. I wanna mention something to you, man. And I just want to offer up a question to you, Dan. And first off, thank you for coming on tonight's show. Thank all you guys. We got some more topics we're talking about, and I really appreciate all three of you gentlemen. This is, it's awesome to hear everybody's different perspectives. But Dan, you don't have to answer this here, or you can. I'm going to ask you a question, and then we'll segue to the next one. Sam mentioned earlier, he believes that marriage is between a man and a woman because of his beliefs. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What's the
What
difference?
is a woman?
Here's the thing. Now, I hear this from the left a lot. They call people anti-trans, anti-gay, anti-this, anti. It's almost like it's the less favorite word. Anti, and racism is the less favorite two words. Oh, and white supremacy, that one too. And I was going to ask you, just because he believes that marriage is between a man and a woman because of his Christian beliefs or his religious beliefs, he has gay friends that are married and he's cool with it. How does it make someone anti-gay if they just believe marriage should be with a man and a woman, but they aren't doing anything to stop gay people from being married? Does that really make people that have that ideology anti-gay or anti-gay marriage?
I mean, if you're gonna make the comment that says, well, I have a bunch of, I have gay friends that are married and I'm cool with them, but I don't think they should be married. Like, I mean, I'm not in a same-sex relationship, so I can't personally take offense for those individuals or whatever. But if somebody were to tell me that my marriage was somehow, if someone were to tell my wife that, for that our marriage was wrong because she's married to a Jew, that would make me think that person is anti-Semitic.
Okay, well, you didn't answer my question. My question is, if Sam has a belief that this is what he believes, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he's not doing anything to stop set B from happening, is it fair to call people anti if they just have a belief system in a certain thing and they speak out on what they believe?
May I consolidate your question?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Consolidate your question very well. What is the moral bad in vocal advocation against same-sex marriage? What is the moral dilemma in advocating against it?
I think it works to perpetuate continual policies, even if you're saying
so particular policies are immoral. I'm asking about morality, not politics. What is bad?
I believe that we're gonna have to roll back. You're gonna have to give me more than 2 seconds to answer your question. I believe that.
Hey Dan, you got 3 seconds, buddy. I'm just kidding.
I believe that any advocacy against a certain thing works to help push the agenda against that certain thing, whether or not it's public ideas about it, or whether or not it's,
so we shouldn't push back against Israel or Palestine because the idea of pushback is bad. You just told me that the idea of pushback is bad. So we're not allowed to push back against anything. I'm looking for where that goalpost went.
I'm looking for where that goalpost went.
Dude, I'm using your standard. Stop telling me I'm using the
You are not
using.
It's
called an
you're
internal
a straw
critique.
man.
I'm asking for your standard, and I'm attempting to utilize your standard to criticize your own worldview. It's called an internal critique. I know that you find it inconsistent because we're using your standard here.
No, you making a straw man. You're using a straw man argument because you're bringing up the actions of a government.
How is a question a straw man? How do you straw man a question?
I'm just asking questions has been used to. It's a straw man because you're comparing apples and oranges or apples and dump trucks.
How am I making a comparison and asking you what's morally bad about it? Where's the comparison?
Because you're trying to say that, having a belief about whether or
I'm
not
not saying anything, man. I'm asking a question.
Words are coming out of your mouth. You're saying things, and you're saying things, and then you're saying,
"Oh
no,
my God,
you're ridiculous." I mean,
you are using such trigger language. I mean, this is what you do. You use trigger language that are meant to put a spotlight on people who disagree with you, but you can't answer simple questions.
You know what? Speaking
you don't like it because I think questions often aren't as simple as you like to make them to be.
Oh no, they really are. All right, here, I'll ask you a closed question. Yes or no? Closed question. Can't make it more simple than that. Is advocating against gay marriage bad?
Yes.
Why?
Because it treats people as if they're different from the rest, that they're others. It others people, and for no
what's
reason.
What's morally bad about treating people different?
What's morally bad for treating people by treating people saying that these two people, because they happen to be the same gender, can't have the same legal rights?
Am I doing something bad by treating you differently than I'm treating Sam because Sam has a functioning head on his shoulders, so I'm not utilizing certain criticisms against him? Am I being bad towards Sam because I'm not treating him the same way as I'm treating you?
You're not doing it based on anything based on like race or sexual orientation or whatever.
I glorify Sam because as a black man, he's a pinnacle for his demographic. So actually, I do base it upon race. I give him more merit due to the fact that he is in the position that he's in and has the system that he has.
How you can't see that that's a racist comment is just mind
It is
blowing
racist.
to me.
No, I don't have a problem with that. I think that do you know what racism is? Racism is acting upon one's race.
No.
So how is DEI not racist because you're acting upon race? You're hiring people it's like all these yeah. I don't have the problem with racism, sir. So
Do you know who
have to
benefits from
convince
DEI?
me why my
Do you
racism is wrong.
I mean, you're admitting you have no problem with racism. So, I mean, I think
Yeah,
racism
because
is
my
wrong.
definition of racism is probably different than yours, yeah?
Well, commonly the common use of when people are discussing racism and the whole idea of politics and policy, it typically means something different than just simply because of their race. You want to know with DEI who benefits the most from DEI?
What
White
the hell
women.
does racism mean? What does racism mean? Just tell it. What does racism mean?
Racism is bigotry.
No,
generally speaking,
no. You're already wrong.
bigotry
It's a
against
compound word. Racism is a compound word. It means race and ism means to act upon. So racism means to act upon one's race.
What
What's
dictionary did you
wrong
pull that out
with
of?
that? Out of the Greeks who invented the words, dude. They are Greek words. Race and ism are Greek, dude. That's what the words mean. Learn this shit in elementary school, man. Latin and Greek root words. You don't know that ism means action?
You learned Latin in elementary school? That's a pretty advanced.
Yeah,
elementary school.
I was in private school from 3rd to 8th grade, but never mind.
I was in private school. Was long.
All right,
longer
all right.
than that, but still.
Awesome.
All right.
Awesome.
Hey, all right, guys. Here we go, man. We're gonna switch over here. Again, man, I got a question, and I actually want to start this one with Liberal Dan here. And again, you guys, my name's Nick Driver. I got Sawyer right over here. I got my man Sam. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I'm having to do this. But I got Sam down there. and we got Liberal Dan down here.
You're a good sport. You're a good sport. We're glad that you're here tonight with us.
Absolutely, Dan. We absolutely are. And he has a show as well. Dan, do you want to take a second and tell them where to check your stuff out before we go on to the next topic?
Yeah, right now, Mondays and Wednesdays, 8 p.m. Central at liberaldanradio.com, which brings you directly to the YouTube channel, or at twitch.liberaldanradio.com. Either way, will get you there. And I have a lot of content on there that I've made outside of the shows as well. I have lists of, playlists of all different sorts of topics as well. You can check those out. I would definitely, and look, I try and have people from the other side of the aisle, for people who disagree with me. I try and have them call into the show. I try and, we have open phone lines whenever I get away from talking about specific things that I want to talk about, and then open up the phone lines up. I don't care if you agree or disagree with me, you're more than welcome to call in and have a discussion and have a debate. And I'd love to have more people, a more diverse crowd of people coming and joining the show, as long as everybody remains respectful and only attacks the argument, not the person.
Yeah, no doubt, man. And I do want to mention to you, Dan, before we go to the next topic, I don't want you to feel like I'm doing this on purpose. When I'm putting some of the text up that people are leaving comments, it's covering your head a little bit. Because
okay, it's fine. No, that's how it works.
I didn't want you to think I was doing that on purpose.
No,
I didn't want you to be like, "Yo, Nick's covering my head if I'm trying to talk." You know what I'm saying? So
I mean, it's probably for the betterment of the audience that they not see my face all the time, right? I mean, I married up.
Don't
so
be like that.
I married up.
No, man, you're a handsome fella, Dan. So we're gonna start with you. We're gonna start with you on this next one. We got Liberal Dan gonna kick this next one off. All right, man. What is a woman?
I was waiting for that one.
Why has such a simple question become so controversial? You go ahead, Dan. Floor is yours.
I think there are a lot of people in this country who just stopped their learning of gender and sex and whatever at kindergarten biology, which is the kid that was there that said all boys have a penis and all girls have a vagina. But sex and gender are much more complicated than what that movie makes it out to be. If you look at you know, I can talk about a friend of mine, let's say, for example, because there are a lot of people who's like, what's a man, what's a woman? Someone will say a man is somebody with XY chromosomes, a woman is someone with XX chromosomes. Other people might say a man is somebody with a penis, or a woman is somebody with a vagina. But again, life's more complicated than that. I have somebody who I personally know who was assigned female at birth. That person has since transitioned to being a man, because and had the surgeries done to eliminate their had a top surgery. I don't know if they've had bottom surgery or not to add anything. However, that person also was born with XY chromosomes. So genetically, that person would be a man by that, but still was considered a woman at birth because of the parts, and then had to transition in order to. And if you look at him right now, and you wouldn't say, oh, that person was definitely a assigned female at birth. No, you would say, oh, that's a dude. And so, and then there's like Scientific American. I usually post a few Scientific American articles that talk about how the idea of two sexes or two genders is oversimplified. Unfortunately, they're now behind paywalls, which sucks. But there's more than two known combinations of XY chromosomes. There's XO where there was no Y there. There's XX, there's XXXXX, XXXX, there's XXY. And then on top of that, there's, people can be XY, but be missing the SRY gene that basically controls the development of the parts that are there. And then there are also different hormonal levels that exist out there as well. So when crickets, nice. So when you're talking about what is a man, what is a woman, I think there are societal things as to what certain things are feminine and what certain things are masculine. And usually, colloquially speaking, when we're talking about what is a woman, it's people who more embrace a feminine side of life, and men are people who embrace a masculine side of life. But what is feminine and what is masculine also changes over the years as well, simply because of the fact that pink used to be considered manly, and then it stopped being manly, and then now whatever. So the idea of what is a woman is like, if somebody says I'm a woman, then that's good enough for me, because I think an individual is best suited to tell me what they are than anybody else.
All right, Dan, I appreciate that, man. I wanna mention something to you, man. Maybe my brain is just a little bit more simple, but to me, a man has a ding-along and a woman has what she has, man. And I mean, to me, it's a biological situation. Maybe I'm oversimplifying the situation here. But I also want to take time. And I guess what this leads into is there's a difference in, I guess, Dan, I hear what you're saying, but I guess the thing that kind of makes me think about this is I'm perfectly fine with people feeling they are who they are. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But it's the situations we get into once we maneuver this into a government policy, such as men and women's sports, men in combat sports with women. If LeBron James decides tomorrow that he's trans, does he go to the WNBA? Do we finally start getting dunks in the WNBA? I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm sitting here thinking that's kind of what I don't think people. I'm a libertarian, but I think the issue. I think the issue with it. Well, the more and more, it is cool, but I'll tell you, man. The further this stuff goes, it's when you start writing policy that puts boys in girls' bathrooms. I don't think anybody on this panel is a bigot or racist. I don't think anybody on this panel. We're actually having a discussion trying to figure out where we're all coming from. I think it's the spaces that it leads us into when we start trying to put this stuff into policy. I want to jump over here to Sawyer. What's your take on this?
On the what is a woman thing?
Yeah.
Oh, a woman is an adult biological humanoid female with XX chromosomes. That's that.
Pretty straightforward. Sam, what's your take?
Yeah.
Same exact thing. I think the problem is when we start to now mix up the word gender. I think when it comes to like the state of North Carolina and all their policies, instead of using gender as what qualifies you for a specific sport, they should just put biological sex. That right there would nip in the bud. But I think because of all the money that politicians are able to gain, um, it should be a simple answer. And what I always tell people is life is simple. Anytime I hear a politician making things complicated, the gift of communication, Reagan had it, Clinton had it, Obama had it, Trump has it. They simplify, they say simple sixth grade words that people remember, not a whole different vernacular of this and that. To me, is wrong for biological boys to destroy these young women in the pool, on the volleyball court, on the basketball court, on track and field. It's more about convenience. Using the gender is basically taking everything out of context, and that's why they tried to do the George Floyd Act. We already had the Civil Rights Act, which included Title VII, but they wanted the George Floyd Act, and people don't understand that it wasn't even hidden. The George Floyd Act was basically to solidify certain rights to the trans community. That's literally what the George Floyd Act was. So I just think we got to stop using all these different vernaculars, complex, and just use the word sex. Because if a man can be a woman all of a sudden, then all the people that's saying that Rachel Dolezal couldn't be black when she was a president of the NAACP, and they kicked her out when they found out that she was biologically a white woman. If she felt in her heart that she was black, guess what? Based off liberal Dan, she black. So acknowledge her and respect. And I'll close with this real quick. When I talked about my friends that happen to be in marriages, I have my personal principles, which they are well aware of, but I also respect the law. So if the law says that something is legal, I respect that.
All right, let me I kind of like the whether or not
Hey Dan,
I saw the Brittany's question.
we got a question. We got a question. You wanna go for like 30 seconds before we get into Brittany's question?
Yeah, absolutely. Just to give a kind of a 30,000 point.
Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Where I am as a person, which is that, Sam says things are simple, and generally things can be simple. But as a software developer, in my regular 9-to-5 life, I always tend to look for the boundary conditions, like the exceptions to the rules, like the things that that might break a system. So that's a lot of times where I focus my arguments is to make sure that laws can handle the exceptions that happen in society, as well as the general things that happen in society. Now, Brittany asked about how I feel about children transitioning.
Yeah, he go. I'm gonna read it for you there, Mr. Dan. Brittany, what up, Brittany? Thank you for tuning in. And Brittany says, "Can I ask Dan a question? What do you feel about child transitioning? I'm really not against an adult deciding they want to be something else. I can't control another adult, but would you agree or disagree that transitioning is an adult choice / should be done at a legal age?" All right, Dan, go ahead.
There are no examples that I know of that I would see of any children who are getting bottom surgery or top surgery for gender purposes. I do know cis women who have actually gotten top surgery as younger because for their health reasons. There are clinics that are, gender clinics that will do repairs on individuals who are, who might have damage to their junk or whatever. I don't know what specific or technical words we can use. But a lot of people have used these clinics as, oh, here's the evidence they're doing these surgeries on children. There's most places that do, especially bottom surgery. Most places that do the bottom surgery will not do it unless you're a year on hormones, and not puberty blockers, but hormones. And you have to then be on you can only get on hormones if you're 18. So therefore, most people aren't transitioning, or all people aren't actually having the medical surgical transitions until they're 19 years old, where they are of legal age to make that decision for themselves. There's been a little bit of a problem, I think, with puberty blockers when it comes to the people trying to ban puberty blockers, because puberty blockers are also necessary when people start getting, when children start getting like 8, 9 and start to get early onset puberty, which has its own set of problems. So you want to make sure that those children have that available. But when it comes to puberty blockers and trying to say, okay, well, this person, if it's between like the doctor and a psychologist, the parents and the kids, and if they all together are basically saying that this child would be benefited at this point in time by having puberty blockers, I don't necessarily think it's the government's job to say, no, you can't give the child puberty blockers. Again, if I don't believe, again, I can't find any single instance of any child, anybody who is under the age of 18 who has gotten bottom surgery specifically for transitioning, and or top surgery specifically for the purpose of transitioning.
I would like Sawyer. I would like Sawyer to maybe respond to this, and then I want Sam to respond to this.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'll wait.
No. You go ahead. I want to hear what you and Sam have to say about this.
I'd like to respond to it, but I don't even remember what the fucking question was. I mean, once again, we're trying to get down to the bottom of what this guy believes and why he believes it, but he starts going off spurging about this random nonsense that has nothing to do with the actual answer to the question. We want to know what you think about child transitioning. You got into 18 and 19-year-olds, bro.
Because that's the only time it's happening. It's not happening. No, you're not having bottom surgery. Bottom surgery is not being done to anybody under 18. So what do I think about that? The exact number of
refute that. Yeah,
okay,
we're getting ready to refute
that. But I mentioned
the question was
that
concerning child transitions. Like,
and the point is, I'm saying that it
so
doesn't.
Bad faith, man. Look, just
answer
answer the question first, and then give your qualifiers.
I believe that the things that aren't happening shouldn't happen. How about that? It's not happening, so I believe it's fine. It's not happening. It shouldn't happen. Same thing.
Dan, you don't think those? You don't think those? Dan, you don't think those? Like, and I mean this as a, like, all fairness, you don't think those surgeries and those types of things are happening?
Bottom surgery, absolutely not.
Okay.
Top surgery, there is some rare few examples where top surgery has happened specifically for.
Do you think because I want to maybe just push back kindly with you.
You want some data? You want some data on it?
Yeah, we're going to get data. We're getting the data on it right now, Dan. But the thing I want to mention to you is this.
Got it.
Top surgery, that is a sexual organ for women, correct?
Right. Well, there's breast reductions versus breast removals, and
that's not gender affirming surgery. We're talking about gender affirming surgery. We're not talking about repairs.
Yeah.
And
that's not gender affirming surgery. Getting a breast reduction is not gender affirmation. We're talking about gender affirmation. Nothing else.
It can be. I mean, I'm not going to tell somebody that
hey, I like you too, Josie. I like you too.
But go ahead. Give me the data that you think exists. I want to hear that.
Okay. First off. You know what, Dan? Come on, Dan. Dan, we heard that, man. You know what, Dan? We heard that.
Like, dude, I mean, like, I do this. I do this, dude, regularly. In between 2018 and 2021, about 108 minors have received any form of gender-affirming surgery. That is top and bottom surgery. In between 2018 and 2021, that's 108 documented cases. Now, you know the traits of the left just as well as I do. Do you think that these doctors who are doing these gender-affirming surgeries, do you think they're reporting all of them? Or do you think they might be underreporting? Because there certainly can't be over-reporting, can they?
I don't believe that as somebody who is a medical doctor is going to risk their license for that.
By under-reporting something, or by doing what's obviously happening?
Correct.
Which one?
Underreporting.
By
I don't
underreporting?
I don't think they're going to underreport. I don't think they're going to falsify the report specifically because
you don't think to. Are you willing to back up that doctors don't underreport these things? Because if that's your claim, then the burden of proof is set upon you, my friend. You have
No,
to prove your claim.
I have to prove that they're not underreporting. No, that's
Yeah.
asking me to prove a negative.
Yeah,
That's another
because
logical
it's
fallacy.
yeah. Well,
You're
it's
claiming
your
that they
claim.
are.
You
You're
can't
claiming
prove a
that they
negative.
are.
Wait. Can you not
Asking
prove a
somebody
negative?
to prove a negative is a logical fallacy. If you believe
No,
that
it's
something is
not.
happening,
No,
yes,
it's
it
not.
is.
You want to know how?
It
You want to know
absolutely is.
how? Look, no. I can prove it. I can disprove you right now. Look, it's not raining in my room. I just proved a negative, dumbass. I'm gonna go use the restroom. Holy shit.
Have fun.
Hey Sam,
Oh.
Sam, jump on in, man. What's your thoughts, brother?
This is my thought, and basically what I feel, everything is about money. So now we had the climate change. Now that Bill Gates the other day said it's no longer an issue or a danger to the human race, all that money is gone because he has moved on to vaccines. So when I look at gender affirming care, that's the new elephant of money that's coming in. You think about, Dan talked about, I'm about citing sources as someone that's unaffiliated. I like cited sources. So the youngest on average is 13.9 years old of top surgery under gender affirming care. It's not saying repairs. It's specifically gender affirming care. There's an Asian doctor who just this week lost her license because she was continuing to give the gender affirming medications, saying she just lost her license. So when we look at for those 12 and younger, it was 0. The reason why most likely is 0 in my eyes is because those young women haven't developed breasts yet. And that's the only reason why we won't see top surgeries. But as Dan said earlier, okay, if somebody starts to hit puberty at 12 or 13, that's why they do have statistical numbers of 13-year-olds getting top surgery. So the thing is like all these doctors that are making money off this top surgery, this bottom surgery, they're making money off of it. That's what people don't understand. That's the next golden goose egg is trans surgery. Look how much they're paying for those surgeries. And so what's going to happen by using liberal Dan's logic is you're going to have a young lady who's going to report to the dentist's office. I mean, not the dentist's office, to the doctor's office, and basically take a knife, stab her breast, and start pouring out blood. I need you to repair this. Remove my breast.
That's a gender affirming
It's almost
surgery.
like so when I had a little thing in my back, and I went to get it treated or to take it out. They basically said, okay, does it hurt? I said, what do you mean if it hurts? Well, if it hurts, then it'll be covered under this insurance. If it doesn't, it's going to be cosmetic. And you're going to have to pay the $500 to have it removed. I said, oh, no, it hurts like crazy. My shoulder's hurting, everything. And guess what? $25 copay. And it was taken care of. So the thing is, you're going to have a lot. When I talked about these young kids self-diagnosing themselves, when you begin to, at a young age, start this transition, a lot of times because your parent is trying to convince you so that parent can go around and brag, oh, I got a trans kid, I got a queer kid, I got this. They want to be a part of the get-along gang.
Yeah.
They want to be a part of that club. All it is about money. And I think if you can't live on your own, you should not be able to do that, because studies have shown that the kids that are suffering from depression, after they have those surgeries, they still have the depression, if not more. If you're not born a man, it don't matter what you do, you will never feel like a man. Vice versa with a woman. It's just a simple fact, not just biology. It's a simple fact. And the psychiatry, the mental health, the counselors, they all test. The only ones that will push back are the ones that their cream and crop, their money is these kids, and basically to feed them to these doctors where they get their kickback.
I've asked our info searcher here and multitasker Sawyer. I asked him a question, man. I said, hey, can we get the information on the suicide rate for gender affirming care, people that have had that? Sawyer, have you got any numbers on that?
Well, I've got only what's from the National Health Institute of the United States. Now, I must concede to one thing. There are no precise numbers because, as we know, medical officials, especially when concerning specific topics like, I don't know, gender affirmation, or even things when they're medical diagnoses now that are also now tied to DEI, we see that these things are oftentimes underreported. So what we have are base generalizations, or basically we can't tell the exact numbers, but we can tell how much more likely someone is willing to just by looking at selective demographics, because that's all we have to work with. Because once again, of the underreporting of actual conclusion, I want much discovery of this. I want you
to mention it. Then I want us to go to Sam after that. Sorry, but I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy. Go ahead.
No, absolutely. It's individuals who underwent gender affirming surgery had a 12.12-fold higher suicide attempt risk than those who did not. That is a 3.47% versus a 0.29%. So that's 12 times, what I'm guessing is around 12.12 times more likely to do yourself in if you've had one of these surgeries.
Now, are they saying, is this causation or correlation?
I mean, we're just looking at the numbers.
I'm sorry. Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Nick. Is causation not necessarily I can agree that causation is not necessarily correlation. But if you're going to bring, once again, you have to back up your own claims. So if you're going to say that correlation and causation are anonymous in this sense, you have to differentiate what that means. Because I'm saying it's the same here.
What I'm saying is that there are high suicide rates amongst trans kids, especially trans kids who don't have people who affirm who they are. So if the people are still trans, they're still trans, but they were trans before they have their top surgery, they're trans after they get the top surgery or whatever. So, and now these rates are we talking about all individuals who have gender affirming surgery? And this is not just talking about children.
I pre-qualified what I said by saying these are not exact numbers. Therefore, that inherently means that it cannot include all trans people. Because
what I'm saying,
don't have exact numbers.
But are we just talking about? But this is not. These numbers are not just children. These numbers are all people. Are people who have transitioned. It might not include all people who have transitioned versus people who haven't transitioned. They're individuals who are trans,
with
age not
no
related.
Qualifier. The only qualifier is that they received gender affirming surgery. That is the only one.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that it's very well possible that that there are many issues above and beyond the whatever dysphoria they may feel over having, for example, if they're getting top surgery and afterwards they may not have had the proper amount of therapy, let's say, to be able to.
How is causation not correlation in this case? Just answer that, please.
What I'm saying
is
that
the difference between causation and correlation when it comes to
causation would be the surgery caused them to have the surgery caused them to become
Nobody's
suicidal.
Claiming that the surgery causes people to kill themselves, Dan. We're saying that the ideology that leads to affirming care is what makes people kill themselves, Dan.
Hey Dan, hang on one second. Hey Dan, let me get between you guys real quick. I think what Sawyer is saying is, and correct me if I'm wrong,
sure,
but he feels like
I don't feel like nothing.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Saul, you don't hit me, man. I was just trying to, I tell you, man, I think, I'm not gonna say what he's saying, but just me personally, like, I feel like Dan, and I mean this with all due respect, I got respect for you, but I feel like sometimes when the questions are answered, it's almost when the questions are asked, I'm sorry, it's kind of like you're going around, and the consensus I'm getting from a lot of the people in the chat is like, if one guy put in here, ask Dan what his favorite color is, and he'll talk to you for 1 minute about no colors. And the thing I'm going is, like, sometimes there's yes or no questions. And I think that's what we're like trying to get back to. I don't
think there are.
It can't make.
I think I agree with you that there are yes or no questions. There absolutely are yes or no questions. But there are examples where yes or no is asking if a yes or no is not necessarily.
I concede to what you're saying. Yes, I absolutely agree. Just like Sam and I specifically, I won't speak on Nick because he's more in a moderator position on this panel. However, I can speak for Sam and I when say we agree that there are people who identify with a gender that they're not born with. We just don't decide to dignify it with any kind of advocation. Kind of like you're not dignifying my questions simply because you don't agree with them.
No, you don't like my answers. You don't like my answers because you don't agree with it. I'm saying that.
No, I don't like your answers.
Hey, Dan, hang on 1 second. Hey, Dan, hang on 1 second. We got to make sure we give everybody a chance to chat about these conversations. Sam, you're up now.
Okay, I just I sent you the last link for Colorado that allow those surgeries under 18. And basically, in order for someone to get either top or bottom surgery, all they have to do is have a parental or their guardian's consent, a letter from a licensed medical health provider. Now, that's easy to find because all they have to do is Google counselor for trans, and they'll pop up everywhere because that's big money. And the third is approval from a medical doctor, which most likely will be the medical doctor in that clinic that's performing the surgery. That's how easy it is. And Colorado's not the only state. So the thing is these kids are being damaged for what they're not sure. I'm going to tell you a story about when I was growing up in Detroit. I was around, it was mostly all women. So when I would hear them use terms like vagina and stuff like that, and one time my cousin kicked me in the balls, and I was like, Auntie, can you kick me in my vagina? That was when I was like 7 or 8 years old. If I was in today's time, and I had made that comment, instead of my aunt educating me on, no, you have testicles, you got balls, you got a penis, you don't have a vagina. If my aunt was in today's times, oh, well, you can start wearing a dress, you a girl. That's where we begin to walk the line of no return, because once a young lady get her breast cut off, that's it. Unless she goes to the doctor's out someplace and get implants later, but her psychological is gone. They get the bottom surgery. If they like, you know what? I know somebody in Texas, she was going through the hormones and all that stuff. And guess what? When she turned 27, she was like, you know what? I'm not a guy. I'm not a female that, I'm not a guy that was born in a female's body. I'm a female that just like coochie. And I like to wear Jordans and sweats.
Yeah.
So now she wants to have children and she can't because all those the testosterone, all the stuff that they was given has tore up her ovaries.
The
So
person you're speaking about right now, how old were they when they started their medical transitioning?
15.
Bottom surgery, or what was it? Just puberty blockers, or what?
No, started with the no, already gone through puberty.
Right. What I'm saying is that
They
what steps
started
did
to
they
do
take
the
when?
hormone because her voice, she began to grow facial hair when she started taking the pills. Within a month, started growing facial hair, started her voice began to change, all of those things. And when she stopped doing that stuff, she still doesn't have her voice back. And she's dealing with a lot of mental issues because other people that are friends with her are saying you need to check on her. You need to check on her. We haven't talked to her in days. Last time she was walking, you know, on the Katy freeway. So that's the thing, is like sometimes you're too young for certain things that are permanent, supposed to be permanent changes. And any adult in their right mind that advocates for a 6, a 12, a 14-year-old doing that, I'll stay away from them. I question their morality because they're doing more damage. You don't know. You got people that turn 30, 40 years old just figuring out what they want to be in life. And you're telling me you about to do something permanent to a dang on teenager, giving pills that's going to blow their ovaries out the box? That right there is immoral. But you know what? Here in America, money trumps morality.
And see, I just, all right, what was it? The 108 over the past over a 3-4 year period who did get like the top surgery or whatever. And again, a lot of those are individuals who, I mean, you clearly have, you know, you think that if people are going to, you know, get the parental consent, get the letter from the licensed doctor, get to talk to your mental health person or whatever, and they've gone through all those steps, and you just think that all of that is just going to be an industry, like a trans industry, a pipeline to shove all of these kids. But 108 people is not making it over the course of 3, 4, 5 years is not making it an industry. That's like the rarest of the rare. That's not, you know, it's not the norm. And look, if there are people who are inappropriately giving people hormone therapy too early or doing surgeries that are too early, and a lot of the people who do get top surgery at 16 and 17, they're supposed to have, you know, be able to understand what's going to happen with what's going on with their body, and after the surgery they're going to have to go through the medical. If the doctors and whatever are doing it, you know, in a way that do not go through the guidelines that one must be to be that absolute rare minority of people, then absolutely they should be gone after, and they should lose their license. They should go to prison because they are not following the guidelines that you're supposed to follow in order to do this. But here's the thing, like, you know, there are some parents, and I'm trying to put myself in a position of because I don't believe that there are this epidemic of parents who are going to be like, oh, I don't want to be the cool parent, so I'm going to try and convince my kid to be trans. Like, I would never. No, like, I'm very supportive of trans.
Being the parent of a trans is the cool group. But before, I want to reiterate on something you said that's not really a fact. And I'll cite my sources. In 2022, trans surgeries generated $2.1 billion.
Jeez.
Just in 2022 is estimated,
adults, right? How many of those are kids versus adults?
If you would just sometimes don't speak to speak, but sometimes it's okay just not say nothing and just to take in the information.
Can we let's let Sam finish his sentence before we all interject. Is that cool?
Fair.
And by 2030, it's expected or projected to be over $5 billion per year. If that's not a market for doctors to be able to get those 9/11.2s and 0.3s by that time, I don't know what it is. You're talking about billions. So for somebody to say money isn't the incentive to try to convince these kids to get this surgery, or these parents that their kids can do certain things like this, I don't know what planet you on, but money, it basically dictates our society.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me make my point. Because you said we're talking about children, and then we're talking about all trans surgeries, which the vast majority of them are going to be
No,
adult.
I
Dan,
don't.
that's not correct.
That's not right, Dan. Dan, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
This is my thing, Dan. I'm not going to let you misquote what I said, because I'm always specific on when I say something. When I said trans surgeries are basically the new market, I didn't say for young. I didn't even say. I said trans surgeries, period. So
But
just
you're bringing
make sure
it up
you
in the
listen.
conversation about trans children being transitioning. That's what you're bringing it up in that, which muddies the water.
When you stop the adults, you stop the children.
But
there you go.
Which one of you? Both of y'all said that adults should be able to do it. Now you want to stop the adults.
No,
So now it's
what?
hypocrisy.
Hold on, Dan.
When did we say that?
Hypocrisy right there. You
Hey,
first
nobody
said
said,
hey,
yo, Dan. Nobody said that.
You're lying. You're lying through your teeth right now.
I don't think he's lying. I think he's hearing
He's
something
lying.
that we didn't say.
Which people on the panel right now, before we had this conversation, it said if an adult wants to do it, they should be able to do it. Sam, did you say that? Yes or no?
Oh, now you want me to say yes or no? Yes.
You said
It's
that.
not hard for
yes,
me to
did you
do.
say
I
that?
just
Yes,
do
no.
it.
Hey,
Sawyer.
first off, hey, yeah, he said yeah. If an adult wants to have that surgery, is that the question you're asking, Dan?
Yeah, if an adult wants to have that, if an
I
adult,
think everybody on this panel will say yeah, that's fine.
and I said
No,
that, and
I'll
then
say
Sawyer
no.
just said no.
Hell no.
Well, you know what?
Wow.
That's
Lock
his-
those
that's
people
his-
in cages. What's wrong with it? Like, I lock them in cages.
I don't.
Dude.
I
You're
never tell
crazy
individual.
people.
I never tell grown
Well,
people.
75% of the people here.
About to say,
like it's okay.
most people agree with me, Dan. So I don't know what the fuck you're talking about.
That's an
No way,
appeal to
Sawyer.
popularity logical fallacy. Now you love.
No, it's actually called an ad
logical
populum.
fallacy.
The term you're looking for is fallacy ad populum. That's the fallacy you're looking for.
Hey guys, we got another comment here from Brittany, and Brittany says, there are a lot of people who suffer physical pain after their surgeries that spiral those into depression. It's not always psychological factors. I actually like Jeffree Star's point of view on it. He's very obviously feminine in nature and does not make up better than I do, but he maintains that, yeah, you guys can read that. This is very fragmented, but I understand what she is saying. He's very obviously feminine in nature and does make up better than I do, but he maintains that whether, okay. So also props for Dan for being a good sport. You guys, what are you guys' thoughts on this? Dan, do you want to go first?
About I mean, I don't know necessarily who Jeffree Star is specifically. I mean, there are effeminate, feminine looking,
Hey, hang on a second. Let me get that off your face, man. You're a handsome fella.
Right.
Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Fix my hair. No, there are absolutely. I mean, like to the point that I think that Sam was maybe talking about earlier. There are absolutely butch lesbians, and just because one's a butch lesbian, that doesn't mean that they're trans. There are tomboys who like boys who just happen to dress in clothes that aren't seen by society as being feminine, and vice versa with men as well, and also other people of other there are plenty of folks who are non-binary who don't want to get any sort of surgeries. They just treat themselves and dress themselves and put makeup or don't put makeup based on what they feel is affirming to them. It has nothing to do with the procedures or whatever. So yeah, I'm absolutely there are people who are out there who there are even people who are trans who aren't going to get the surgeries because they don't feel like they want to put the knife to themselves in order for them to be valid for who they are, and that's fine too. So I mean, I could roll back to another point, but I don't know if anybody else wants to comment on her point first. Before I make a comment on the point that I was trying to make earlier, but I want to let the other two make their comments first on that particular comment, if they have any comments to make.
Dude, I don't know. I consistently get lost in what the current topic is because I'm consistently lost in what we're actually talking about because it keeps on going to other shit.
It is a bit going like follow the bouncing ball, isn't it? But Sam,
well, I mean, yeah, it is. It is like watch me take this ball into a court that we're not playing in, and now you have to follow me with the ball. But I mean, we're trying our best to keep up with you, Dan.
My main,
I'm confused at what I'm even being asked.
I was asking you what your opinion was on that posted question that they just posted.
Yeah. He was hey Sawyer,
What's the specific question?
Hey Sawyer, he was asking you what you thought about this right here.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I just didn't know. It's not I usually like Jeffree Star's okay, I have some thoughts on Jeffree Star.
All right, let's get it.
Jeffree Star is a ultra feminized individual. He is a man. And as far as I know it, he will tell you that he is a man. Now, at first glance, it's pretty obvious what he presents himself as. He is under any guise of the term trans. He completely fits that bubble. Even though he himself might tell you he's a man, but you can see his practices. He's probably the best hope that conservatism has to actually bring sense and logic to these people. I don't like him. I don't advocate for what he does, but he's probably the most sensible person of that nature.
So we got another question here. I'm sorry. Did you want to respond there, Sam?
Oh, yeah, please. I want some cross-examine, please.
Yeah. Again, I just want to reiterate, like, I think when we talk about like genders, I look at during the last Olympics where there was on the women's soccer team, there was a person that she basically was saying that she's a he, like she identifies as a man. And I believe it was Switzerland, but she didn't play on the men's Switzerland team. She played for the women, and she had to, let me be respectful. He had to file a waiver to be able to play with the women. You have biologically female in the WNBA. There's a couple of them that they identify as men. Just Brittany Griner is a prime example that everybody sees. But why are they not playing in the NBA? Because there's clear that there's a difference between men and women. When I look at I would say 95% of trans men, I can tell that they were biologically a woman, and vice versa. So it's just one of those things that I think when it comes to like Jeffree Star, he's kind of like the young lady that I was speaking about in Texas. I would consider him like, a drag queen. They know they're a man, they may be gay, but they like to dress up like a woman. They like feminine things. That's all I was saying about that.
All right.
Hey Dan, did you want to make a real quick point on this, or
yeah,
I next question, because we got more questions.
Sure. Please. There's nothing about Griner or just to comment to that. There's nothing about Brittany Griner that says that she's a trans man. She doesn't identify as a man. You have in the Olympics, you have like somebody like Caster Semenya who just has hormone levels that are.
Here we go again, man.
But
you cannot, Dan. You cannot just simplify anything.
Because this issue is not a simple issue.
This is the university effect, man. This is the university effect.
Brittany Griner sits around.
This is a universe effect, man.
Brittany Griner was
I'm a
skateboard. She
dropout.
skates. They skateboard on the street with no shirt, just shorts on. When they're at their pool, they just got shorts on, no top, no nothing. The thing is like you may not follow that community, the basketball community or anything like that, like I do or anything, but for you to even say that, most of the members of the NBA or WNBA would laugh at you. I understand you're trying to push back on every single thing, but that's not making you look good right now. It's not giving the listeners or anybody watching this a lot of confidence, because in their mind, and that's what I'm starting to feel, is like, no matter what, you're just going to speak, you're going to do whatever it takes, put in all these extra words that nobody cares about to try to make a lot of words dictate you're making your point, and it's making less of your points on everything. Simplify the answer. Some things are yes and no. Every time I was asked yes or no, I started it out with either yes or no, and then I reiterated my point to support that.
In fact, every time you've began to qualify your own answers, you actually concede to the argument of Sam and I. Every time you begin to qualify your answers, you actually concede on your own worldview. I don't think you've noticed that yet, but you've done it multiple times just within this show.
No, because I think y'all are making things oversimplified that are not that simple.
Or maybe it's really not that complicated to people who can think it through. Yes, simple things are simple to smart people. Very dumb people have to think very hard about what 2 + 2 is. 2 + 2 is simple to people not dumb.
Well,
I'm not calling you dumb. I just want to make that clear. I'm not calling you dumb.
He didn't call you dumb, but hang on one second. I want to mention this. I know we're talking about heated topics and things that get taken out of context, but I want to mention some. I talked to this person recently. That's a pretty I would say this, it changed my viewpoint on something. Sometimes people are just born a certain type of way and their brain thinks a certain type of way. And I think people are, they have a tendency to, okay, well, this is what I think, that's what I think. And we have a tendency, and especially since 2020, we've gone through COVID, we're in our bubbles. It's very easy for us, if we're not able to keep our mind open, it's very easy to think, oh, this person's against me, this person's against me. I want to maneuver this to another question here. Here we go. Looking it up. Yo, we're doing great tonight, guys, man. I'm going to tell you guys, man, this is my most favorite Nick Driver live stream I've ever done. I got Sawyer, I got Sam, I got Liberal Dan on it. Yo, we having a great time.
And I just want to make this clear, Dan, just while we have like some dead air. I take none of this personally. I know that we have some pretentious language that's being used, but all of this is for the factor of entertainment. I don't take it personally. I'm quite confident that Sam doesn't either. I'm enjoying myself. I hope that you are, and it's all just ideologies clashing. That's all we're trying to do here.
Absolutely. And I think I have it. This is from Aaron. Let me see here. Aaron says, it's not that one. Who on this panel has kids? That's what Aaron says. Yeah. So you guys, Aaron, what else you want us to talk about with that, man? You said who on this panel has kids, man.
Next.
I will tell you this. No, I'm gonna tell you this. I never even said this. This happened like 6, 7 years ago, and I'm gonna hit this and then skip over it. I had one that passed away. So
I'm sorry to hear that, man.
It's
okay. It's okay.
Anybody to experience.
You know what? It's okay.
Not to play with.
And you know, it's okay. Here we go, man. Aaron West, skateboarding topless doesn't mean you're a man. Yeah, I don't even know what that means. That's crazy. So let's move on to our final question of the night. Have you guys got 15, 20 more minutes?
Sure.
Yep.
Here for as long as you need.
Are
me,
you in
man.
there? Yo, Dan, you're too handsome, man. We got to get your head bigger on this stuff, man. All right. So, I thought about this next question for a little while, and I'm like, I'm gonna be sitting down with several beautiful-minded human beings tonight. What could I ask them that maybe they have not been asked before? And this is the question I came up with. Has faith and belief in God become a new form of rebellion in modern day America? Sawyer, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. Hell yeah, brother. It is a new form of rebellion. And we were told over 2,000 years ago that we would become the minority. We were told that the world would turn against us and chastise us simply for proclaiming God's name. So, I mean, this was expected. If you follow the faith, then you know that the world is to turn against you. Being a Christian is now a form of rebellion because it's against the status quo, which just goes to show. And anybody who has an argument against Christianity, if you have an argument against the ethical system that it provides, well, I'd just like to quantify that with your own worldview's morality, and tell me how your morality is not also inherited and borrowed from Christian ethics. Even most of the secular humanism morality that we see today is borrowed from Christian ethics. But once again, even though all of these ethics and these moralities are borrowed from Christianity, we still see a worldwide push against it. And this all, at least in this country, this sprouted about 80, 90 years ago with the start of feminism, which quickly turned into DEI and is now turning into a huge trans ideology push. But all of this is in the name of a global egalitarian push against the patriarchy. The world is turning their face against God, against the patriarchy, and it's the greatest mistake ever.
Sam, you up next. Hey, Sam,
I'm sorry. I agree a lot with a lot of the things that Sawyer said. I think I don't want to take up a lot of time with this, but I just want to make sure that we continue this dialogue, because I do enjoy it, and the questions, especially with everything that Sawyer just said, the questions that everybody are asking, I just hope it's something that we're able to continue. Because even though I don't agree with some of the things that Liberal Dan says, I feel that it's healthy for me still to hear him out.
Absolutely.
And I want everybody on here to do well. And anytime that I don't want anybody to get offended, but if I state something, I just want, I'm watching this as an unaffiliated voter, as a listener. So anything that I relay to Sawyer, anything I relay to Liberal Dan, I want you guys to understand is that I want us all to be great communicators and to be able to get our points across effectively, whether we disagree with it or not. And that's the only thing I wanted to say as far as.
That's what's up.
All
That's
right.
what's up. So I want us to do one little segment before we leave.
Right. Do you want me to answer too, or no?
Oh yeah. I'm sorry, Dan. I'm sorry. My bad, Dan. My bad. Go ahead, buddy. My bad. Go ahead.
All right.
Yeah, we absolutely want you to answer. Sorry about that.
87% of Congress are Christian. The vast majority, I think 8 out of 9 of the members of the Supreme Court are Christian. I think you only have one Jewish person on there. And then you have Donald Trump, who identifies also as a Christian. So as long as we're led by, our rules are made by, the decisions about those rules are made by, and that doesn't even count all the legislatures in the rest of the country that are predominantly Christian as well. As long as the power structures are made up by Christians, I don't think it's rebellious to be a Christian. So that's my
Okay.
answer.
Well, you know what? Hey, might not agree with everything you said, but here's what I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah, I could contend with that.
Yeah. So, are we watching the collapse of traditional American values in 2025? Sam, can you start this off?
Yes. And I believe that comes from too much compromise from values, not holding the same standard. And, as I mentioned two places before, I'll use Dearborn, Michigan as an example. Extreme Islamists, people do not understand that's not a religion. It's a culture, it's a civilization. And when you read the Quran, it's basically to be a good Muslim is to spread Islam throughout the world, to cover all nations, and anybody that stands against you, you basically take them out, and it won't be considered bad to take that life. Now, there's three ways that they're doing it. The first way is through the womb. So when they come here as refugees and stuff, where most Americans have 1.2 kids, or people here, they have 5 to 10 kids. And what happens is they're beginning to overpopulate, and gain numbers. That's why in Dearborn, Michigan now, the entire city council, including the mayor, are Islamists. They do their call to prayer at 5:30 a.m. on loudspeakers all throughout the city. When we see all the mosques that are here in the US, why are they praying out on the street? They're praying on the street so they assert their dominance. But the womb is the other one. And then the taqiyya, which I've shared with Sawyer on our podcast, is basically saying, like, if you're a Muslim, you're not supposed to eat pork. But if it will help a Westerner accept you into their circle, oh, you can eat that pork rib, you can eat that pig feet. It's okay. It's okay for you to sleep with white women, as long as it allows you to get into their circle so you can infiltrate. The last thing is the Quran, where they use our constitution and our rules against us. That's why anytime you see Islamists, they live that culture of Islam, but anytime they're pushed against, you're Islamic phobic. That's our religion. They don't look at it as a religion. They're saying that because they're using our laws to get what they want. So as long as they continue to multiply like crazy, you look at the guy that's most likely going to be the mayor of New York City. Same exact thing. You see him changing up his vernacular, his accent, and all that, depending on who he's around. They're laying the framework for what they want. You look at the Vatican they're constructing an Islamic prayer room at the Vatican. So all this stuff is going on, and everything that happens in the Vatican radiates over here to the Catholics that are here. So I just think the traditions, American traditions, are basically, in a fight right now. It's warfare that what's going on right now. And that's one reason why I do appreciate Charlie Kirk spreading Christianity. Some people may look, Christian nationalist. He said, yes, I want everybody in America to love Jesus Christ. Some people want to turn it into racism and stuff like that, but I just think that when we begin to dip to, and I think it's more on the left than the right now, the left are compromising so many values.
Yeah.
Like tons of their values just because it's against Trump or just because it's against a Republican or somebody conservative. Remember, prior to Barack Obama, both sides used to joke at debates. They used to have fun at the Al Smith dinner.
Yeah.
You know, now the Democrats, the last couple, they didn't even show up.
Right.
And those Jewish folks make up 22% of the US population. You know, so they're kicking themselves in the foot. And they even joked about it at the last Al Smith dinner when Kamala Harris refused to go to. So, you know, I just think, you know, our values are in danger right now because we're allowing so many entities to infiltrate, you know, into our society.
Appreciate that, Sam. I appreciate that. And now Liberal Dan.
Yes.
Being a 10 out of 10 when it comes to being handsome.
Mm-hmm.
Try to come down with us and talk normal, okay?
All right. Now you said
do you feel like the American traditional system, and I really need you to understand what I'm saying here, because I know you're going to automatically go to anytime I try to talk to, I'm not saying you're like this clearly, because you're on this show, and hopefully we have, you know, I know we've sparred, but hopefully this has been a respectful thing, I think, for the most part, right? I guess the two questions I have for you is American traditionalism in trouble? And the second question I would have for you is, what is Americanism to you?
I mean, I would feel like I'd have to push it back on you because I want to know what you define.
Oh, you gotta push back on me for. I ask you a question.
But
yo, I literally said, yo, here's the question. I'm gonna push back. What are you talking about? Yo, I'm saying, Dan, did you not hear me?
I heard you, but like, you know, to me, like, you know, traditional American values.
That's what I said. I said, what is Americanism to you? And do you feel like it's in trouble?
Well, I mean, traditional American values include, you know, slavery used to be a traditional American value that went away. That was eliminated mostly in the Constitution.
Dan, stop, bro. Dan, stop. Look, stop. Here's the thing. Okay, can we fast forward 200 years? Because here's the thing I'm gonna tell you, man. Thank you. You know what? I don't have the cricket sound, but thank you, Sawyer. What, Dan? Can I tell you something, bro?
Sure.
No. I didn't even do that. I didn't even fucking do that.
You know, that was probably cricket in my house.
That was Sam. Sam is being pretentious, and he's trying to put this. Look, he's not even saying nothing. I refuse to accept this type of treatment.
Okay. Look. Hey, Dan, can I tell you something? Here's what the crowd's saying. Oh my God, Dan, that was painful, Dan. Listen, here's what I'm gonna tell you, man. Just answer the question.
Our country was built on racism and sexism, and if that comes down, that's good. That's a feature, not a bug.
So,
to me, those are traditional American values.
You know what? I actually got some numbers for you right now. Do you know how many? Now you're saying that this country is built, and of course, I mean, most countries are built on that. I'm actually working on a documentary. If you would like to help me, it's called White Slaves on the Barbary Islands. If you would like to work with me on that, Dan, if you really are about, hey, yo, let's keep it fair. Tell me what you feel, man.
I mean, I would want to know more about it.
Tell us anyway.
But anyway, I mean, y'all wanted a simple answer, and then I gave a simple answer, and y'all like, no, get into more details. So what do y'all want? You want me to go into more details?
I guess the question that we have is, why do white liberals talk more about racism than
black people?
Right, thank you, bro.
I mean, just say what it is. That's what I'm like. I'm so tired of white folks talking about slavery and all this stuff that, like, at one point or another, everybody on this planet have ancestors that have been enslaved or you know, like, stop. It's okay to be an ally and not talk about slavery. Like, that was before, you know, yeah, we went through Jim Crow. We went through certain things. Okay, There's people that come to this country in worse conditions, and now they're wealthy. It's the American dream, capitalism. They come in, they don't spend on all these luxury goods. They come in and they make it happen. That's why I've been all over the world. America is the only country that people are trying to get to. All the other countries that people try to say, oh, Poland, Denmark, guess what? They don't have immigration. They talk about their great education, the free college, free medical, and all that. Guess what? They have zero immigration.
Facts.
When you fill out your visa to go to Denmark, guess what? The police, the day you're supposed to leave, they're knocking at the door of the hotel or the apartment or wherever you at. You're not getting into that country unless you have a job with a company that's there, because they want to make sure that you're contributing. When you go to Abu Dhabi, guess what? You can't buy no house or no land in Abu Dhabi, but all these people can come here. All these people can come here and basically buy up land, not even be a citizen, but we can't go to their country and do it. There's a reason why, Dan, you're here in America and you ain't in Nicaragua or you ain't in Honduras.
Facts.
There's a reason why we're here within these borders, because we like what's going on. Everybody will talk about, oh, how hateful, oh, we don't like it. But guess what? They're still here. All them people, when Trump got elected, talk about, oh, if he win, I'm going to leave. Guess what? They're still here because they know how bad it is overseas. And they say, oh, it's not enough money. Well, guess what? In Thailand, you can live on $350 a month and eat out every night. And you're not even trying to get there. So I just think when Nick asks us a question, don't try to say the politically correct. I guess he's asking for you to just really speak your mind. Don't try to you're not running for Congress on the show. Right. Just speak your mind. Don't pull up no slavery and all that, because I can tell you this, being a black man, there's days I wake up and I don't even think about it until I hear some white folks talking about it. I rarely hear my own talk about it. When I go to Fayetteville, North Carolina, guess what? I could completely forget about slavery, but then when I pass that market house that's downtown on Hay Street where they used to sell slaves, it reminds me. That's why I don't like monuments and statues being removed, because when you out of sight, out of mind is the true meaning. You don't have any reminders of what ancestors went through, because we're not going to learn it in our books. Majority of the people teaching African American studies are white women. Facts. DEI is only employed with you put DEI only 3.7 of directors are black folks. Only 4% of DEI positions are black folks. So I'm not going to sit there and rally for something that's not benefiting the folks that they're trying to tell us it is. I don't like when white folks try to tell black folks what's good for them and they haven't even lived in the hood. Fact. People up here talking about what's going on in Chicago when I got family on the South Side.
Facts.
Everybody talking about that stuff don't even stay there. They stay in South Holland, Southfield, Skokie. They don't stay in the South Side.
Hey,
let's go. Yo, let's go, Sam. Let's go, man. Yo, I feel like I'm at a sermon.
I was the only white kid in my family. I literally was growing up in the hood. I'm not going to try and claim that I know how it is to be a black person or whatever. But you know, we can have a country where you can have two things that are both true. You could have the fact that America is a country that has a lot of opportunity for a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people want to come here for the opportunities that are available to them, while also having a country that has significant flaws that still need to be fixed.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what, Dan. I'll tell you what, man.
Also, there's only 2% Jews in the country, not 20. But okay. just to.
I want to mention this to you guys. We rocked about a 2.5 hour session tonight. I think we're gonna close out. You guys hang out for a minute, if you can. We'll talk a little bit in the room here in a minute, but I do want to mention before we get off here. Right below me, right here, we got Liberal Dan. He has a wonderful show on YouTube. Let's give him a round of applause, man. Yo, we got my man Sawyer right here, right there. Let's give him a round of applause, man. Let's give him a round of applause. We got my man Sam. Damn, you know it's backwards on my camera. We got my man Sam right there. We got the yeah. I do want to tell you guys something, man.
Yeah.
I feel like we had a very good podcast tonight, and I'm very appreciative of all three of you beautiful, wonderful human beings. And you guys hang out with me for a minute once we cut this stream off. And you guys make sure like, comment, subscribe to the Nick Driver channel on YouTube. And I'm also a part of the Winners podcast. And you guys check them out as well. I'll put a link in the description. And I'm on there about 2 times every month. And you get more Sam, more Sawyer, and hey, yo, we got to get Liberal Dan on there. I know Fitz would love that. So
we do. We
we would love them on there.
We are at a deficit of people that oppose the right that are willing to actually have the conversation.
Yeah.
And I greatly applaud you just for having this conversation with us, because it's a rare occurrence nowadays, people who are actually willing to contend with particular arguments. So thank you again.
My name's Daniel's always willing to go in the lion's den. So, right.
Well, I tell you what, Liberal Dan, if we had more Liberal Dans in the world that actually would come on podcasts, I think we could figure all this stuff out.
We'd have a lot less contention. Yeah.
Facts.
Oh,
all right, guys. Anything you want to say, Sam, before we close out?
Real quick. Liberal Dan corrected me, and he was correct about the Jewish population. I misspoke when I talked about the Al Smith dinner. It's for Catholics, which are 22%.
Sure.
So I appreciate, and again, I love being corrected, and I appreciate you for saying that.
Absolutely.
My pleasure.
Yeah, you know, Liberal Dan, we're policy guys. We're trying to figure this stuff out. If we're wrong, sometimes we try to, correct what we're doing and try to figure out where we're going. So, all right, guys. You guys have a blessed night. Hey, you guys hang around for a little bit, and let's chat a little bit in the green room here, man.
All right.
Yeah.